Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on the porch. I've got my multi-cut tools, and then I have some coffee stirrers that I found on Amazon. They are very skinny. It says perfectsticks.com, and they're better than skinny sticks because they're thinner, which makes them more to scale, and they also can be used for more than one thing. Like, I'm going to use it for the porch, but I've already used it for walls and everything. If you wanted to put it up on the roof, you could use it as the board and batten type siding or whatever like that. But for this one, we're going to be doing the porch. And the first thing I need to do is square it up. So I'm going to be using a little square. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to use it as my guide to get the first one started. So when this is flush against here, just make sure it's nice and flush, then you can glue that one down in place. And then you're going to continue across. Now, I'm going to cut mine because some of mine I want cut, because I don't want them to all be like straight boards going all the way across. So the first thing you need to do is get you some wood glue or some crazy glue or whatever you're going to be using. I'm going to be using some Loctite liquid glue, and that's going to be what I'm going to use for the first one. You don't want to make them wet, because if you make them wet, well, this one's already sticking because of the glue I put on the door. You don't want to make them too wet, because if you do, what happens is it'll warp it. So you just want to avoid that. And you can use wood glue if you want to get it going. In fact, you can use wood glue to fill it in if you want to. Trying to keep my fingers out the way here. Now I'm just doing that to get it started. And it's going to stick pretty quickly. So once it's stuck and you get that first one in place, then you can come along and you can do the next one. Now for the next one, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a stick and I'm going to cut a portion of it off. And then I'm going to glue that portion at the top as close as I can get it. And then the part I cut off, I'm going to go ahead and glue it at the bottom. Now the reason I did that is because I want to make sure that it looks as realistic as possible. And when you do that with the cut line, which I don't even know if you guys can see what I'm doing, I just realized that where I'm at is kind of not really in the camera as well. Hopefully that helps. So cut, or put the first piece in straight. The second piece I cut here and I left it hang over. The third piece, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it, but I'm going to cut it a little bit longer. And then that way my seams are in two different places. So then I'm going to go ahead and go right along that edge with a little bit of glue. Kind of did a little too much there, but that's okay. And then I'm going to take that cut piece and put it right back in place, and then just kind of hold it down, and then you will have a seam here and a seam here. So those seams you don't want to have line up at all. Like, you want to keep them separate. When they're completely dry, you can go over it like this with a knife, very carefully, and cut that off. It's going to leave like a little edge on there. So what you'll also need to do is you'll need to get yourself a little sanding block and just sand it. Now if you plan on putting trim across the front with another piece of board, you want to do that before you cut off. That way these don't sit back further than your trim. I'm not going to do trim because this is all going to probably get painted. So down my next one, I'm just going to go ahead and do a little piece, and I'm going to continue the same pattern that I've been doing. except I'm gonna put this one at the top by the door, and then the next one is gonna go right up next to it right there. So I'm going to continue this process that I'm doing, and I'm going to do this all the way across this entire front porch, and then I'll be back. Okay, so when you get to right here behind here, all you need to do is take your stick and hold it up against there and then mark it. And what I did is I took the knife and I just went right along that edge there, so I knew it was going to be exactly the same, which it's hard to do from this angle, but just like that. And then it left an indent in there, and then that's where I cut it. I went up, cut a bunch more because I know I'm going to need several of them for that little section. And then I'm going to stick them right in here. So it looks like that very last one is actually going to be a stinker because it's going to go right along here. So what I need to do is I need to cut out that little part right there just a little bit. Which kind of stinks because that's like really not an ideal spot to do it. So what I'm doing is I went ahead and taken one of the sticks I already knew and I just marked it. Then I'm just gonna take my knife very carefully without like slicing my finger off. And I'm just gonna kind of carve out that little section if I can. I might have to put more crazy glue down by the time I get it done, but that might be enough to go around that pole. Let's find out. Yes, it worked out perfect. So now that can go there. Now I think I do have to put some more crazy glue down though. Alright. So that's all you need to do for that. If you have gaps, just take some wood glue and fill in the small gaps, and if it's bigger gaps that you have because your sticks aren't perfect, like right here there's a little bit of a gap, you can take a little bit of sawdust and just mix it in with that. Or if you have like woodland scenics, grass mix and stuff like that, and how they have it in the brown and all, you could use that as well. Mix it with a little bit of glue and rub it in there, and then just paint it, and you'll never even know that it was there. Alright, so for this, you see how tiny that is? It's going to be ridiculous. We're going to try and do it, but I have a feeling that it's going to end up breaking off when I try to cut the edge off. So we'll just go with it. If it breaks off, then I'll just have to try something different there. Like maybe I have to cut each one of these that little tiny space, which is about 1/8. Ooh, doesn't want to have it stay because there's nothing for it to stick to. Alright, so because I just is having like a massive like fall effect, I'm just gonna go ahead and put some masking tape on there and hold it together right like that. And hopefully that'll hold it for me. I don't know if it will. I never usually have that problem with porches, but this is a kit, and the way that the railings and the sides work out are different than things that I build on my own. So just kind of got to go with it. Not everything is going to be perfect. So for that, we're going to be done. I'm going to go ahead and save the rest of this build for the next tutorial because I need to go pick up my son from school. And you'll see it finished. Look on my Facebook. You'll see photos of it as well. I'll add photos in there. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, leave them below. I'll try to get to them as fast as I can. But remember, if you're going to put trim on here, either butt the trim up right even with this and make sure it's wide enough to cover that, or sand it really well and paint it, and or put it below it. Either way, it works. But I'm thinking of doing that porch with the wood glue and filling it in, and then I don't know if I'm going to paint it white to match the gingerbread or what, but leave your suggestions down below and we'll see. And this is actually like a white gray. It's a very light gray. But I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day.